Weibo Gaming steal JDG's whole flow and ban the first 3 champions of the game that JDG had banned in the last one. There's that twisted fate of yours. Maybe, just maybe, we'll see a Xiaoxu sighting, but it is a HongQ special. Ashe was left open. Seraphine also left open. Guys, he sells Enchanter and Enchanter accessories. Just put the combo in the bag.
Put the combo in the bag, play that Ashe Seraphine, make it as easy as possible. I mean, seriously, like, the biggest problem for Elk last game is that he was in a lane that was supposed to be fine, and it was not fine. He could not stabilize. He was still very useful in the later half of the game, but desperately needed to be able to stabilize in the early game. Ashe Seraphine is going to be a really good way to do that. Now, Lucian Milio is available. That has been the standard counter, in my opinion, the most consistent counter, but again, it puts a lot of pressure on Gala and Vampire to actually make it work, and you're looking at the later part of the game where you're potentially looking at Twisted Fate and Lucian as your two kind of primary carry roles in the mid and in the bot lane. It's going to be a relatively low damage comp and could open up some problems for them if they don't get that massive lead early.
And while the lane is fine, the mid game for Lucian Milio is hurting a little bit more, mostly because if Elk and the Hank can time their ultimates right, get that Breath of Life out before the second ultimate comes up as a follow-up, all of a sudden you're not able to play as aggressively anymore as the Lucian Milio combo. We're seeing an Azir hover come over for Xiaohu, legendary Azir player. We will see if he goes and locks it in. Listen, he had a good time against HongQ early on. HongQ will have the ability to move around on this Azir, though.
Yeah, I mean, this is a HongQ pick, or a Xiaohu pick, and it's a HongQ pick as well. Basically, everybody getting comfort up until this point with the way that they want to play. No real major surprises, but it does mean that these junglers are going to really get their champion pools pinched. Nocturne and Jarvan already taken off the board. As a reminder, the junglers played in Game 1 were Nefiri and Vi, so those 4 junglers are off the table, unable to be played by either side. That really makes things like Xin Zhao, Skarner a lot higher priority. Lee Sin starts to jump up in terms of expectation. I could see JDG wanting to go for something like that to create even more early game havoc, but either way, we have 4 bans potentially here, and I would expect a lot of them to go into the jungle, even though top laners are still yet to be picked.
Weibo targeting out that Skarner that we were just talking about a couple moments ago. That is deep in the bag of JunJia. Let's see if JDG want to take out that Xin. It is a little bit harder to pilot the Xin with a Milio on the other side, but given the fact that Jax has been banned, maybe JDG are the ones who are going to look for the Xin pickup coming out of the second half.
I mean, I certainly wouldn't hate it from them. They have a lot of tools to be able to push forward with it. It gives them a free skirmisher. Trundle being kind of the main ban here also makes some sense because, again, it does pair up really well with the fact that TF can just walk up and gold card people. Trundle really makes it a lot easier with that pillar to be able to enable that combo, gets Lucian into a position where he can be a lot more aggressive with his ultimate. So I like the ban, but there are so many junglers, like powerful junglers, that are being left untouched. Again, if that Xin Zhao gets through, I would expect that to be a pretty early pick here, but if it doesn't, again, you're really starting to pinch that champion pool. Basically, all of JunJia's most played champions are off the board. You're really looking at Wukong or, you know, maybe even a Maokai as you potentially go down the board here.
Xin was the final ban out of JDG. No surprise, since they don't have the first pick out of the second half. It's going to be a Pantheon lock-in here for Weibo. Not the biggest fan of a Azir Pantheon combo. I think that you're kind of weak early on. You're not really able to take advantage of Pantheon's point-and-click ability. For on the other side, JDG hovering over that Renekton, which is the Xiaoxu special.
Yeah, I think another thing I don't really like about Pantheon here is you're going into Milio, who can just cleanse the stun in the late game. We can just say, whatever, man, don't worry about it. Okay. You can't even really get on any of our backliners, so it's going to be perfectly fine to play that, and you're absolutely right. It's a lot of comfort on the top side, but the early game pressure, I mean, they're throwing down the gauntlet in this laning phase. You're looking at a TF that's going to open up the map, presumably play with an aggressive jungler that can skirmish here. Lee Sin, like I said, would make a lot of sense. Perfect. I think it is the pick I would go for here. You have a Lucian Milio that's going to spike at 2 items, a Renekton that's going to be a problem. This comp has so many different ways to be proactive and to be very dangerous in the early game, but they better get that lead, because if they don't, they got basically no consistency in the later half of the game.
Not at all, Kman. But again, this is what JDG is really good at. Getting ahead early, getting out in front of things, and getting wins there. They were able to get an early lead for quite some time in that first game, but were unable to convert. Weibo going to finish their draft off with a Gnar going up for the top lane for Zika. So going to try to do what you can to make sure that Xiaoxu does not have the easiest time on his favorite champion. But as he said, it's all about the mid-jungle duo. JunJia and HongQ early on, certainly going to be able to exert more pressure than Jiejie and Xiaohu.
You gotta watch out for JDG. Their macro threat in this game is massive. Lee Sin can be anywhere at any moment. You pair that with the Twisted Fate. Plays can happen anywhere. You start to snowball resources on Renekton or Lucian. They still can be big threats in the later part of the game. This Pantheon is going to be essential in the early game to stopping a lot of that aggression. If you can utilize that Grand Starfall to keep up with Twisted Fate and the plays that Lee Sin is making, then you're going to naturally outscale a comp that's very finicky in the late game for JDG. But if you can't, if that level 6 power spike hits and your Grand Starfall isn't used properly, as we've seen multiple times from multiple teams, this game can get out of control incredibly fast, regardless of if you have any damage in the late game or not.
And if things don't go perfectly early for JDG, you could run into a lot of problems. If this Gnar gets an advantage on Renekton, if you misplay an early 2v2 in the bot lane as JDG, you could throw your entire comp out of whack, because if you are missing some of this power early on in the game when you're spiking on 1 or 2 items, the Weibo Gaming comp is going to pass you by as the game goes on. It's something that they've been able to execute on. It's something that Xiaohu has been able to execute on. Let's see if they can do it one more time, Kman. Game 2 of this best of 3 series starting now. That person needed to move that fan sign. We couldn't see our GOAT. In fact, I think that's the first time I've actually seen him on any of the casts that I've been a part of, at least. Maybe I just don't remember his face, sadly. He is. I think there was one time he wasn't there, but I've only ever known it to be that one time.
It just fills me with so much joy that there is so much passion for the fan base here for JDG and
man, I love
as
League
well.
of Legends, bro.
That's some good Jios. Oh, you gotta love League, and you gotta love the LPL. I mean, we got exactly what we were looking for in Game 1. I'm hoping we get as fun of a game here in Game number 2, because it was truly a blast. The lane states are very different. Elk and the Hank are definitely going to be cherishing this level 1, because it probably won't get a ton better than this for them throughout a lot of the rest of the game. Once they start hitting that level 3, level 4, it becomes a lot more difficult to play out this laning phase, and obviously eventually you hit those power spikes and Lucian is going to take over. That's where I'm looking at these junglers. We highlighted so much of what JDG need to do in that early game, but I need to stress that as much as JDG have a lot of the tools, if they are countered specifically by Pantheon, you can be taken off of your A game. This is really one of those cerebral types of games where you're going to have to expect what your opponent's going to do.
Gala dashing forward, already getting Elk's barrier out, so a wise decision there. And all that cozy campfire healing can just easily erase everything that the Hank did. I mean, Vampire was half HP when we last checked in. You head back over, he's full HP. So none of that damage is really able to stick against Emilio. And having had to play against Emilio lanes a lot lately in competitive, very frustrating. Look, he takes a wayward turret shot, which could become problematic at some point soon.
Yeah, he should be fine. This is another lane, kind of similar to game number 1, where you wouldn't theoretically assume that one of them is going to be able to get a gigantic lead over the other, but as we saw in game 1, Xiaohu has kind of showed up over the past couple of weeks. Talked about this a bit in the pre-show, but for me personally, he was my player of the week for week number 6 previously. He really has been essential towards this team's success and being able to reclimb a lot of these standings and leaderboards after a pretty bad start to the split. He was massive on the Casio in game 1. And have to be big again here on the Azir in game 2. He really is the scaling threat that ends up punishing this early JDG comp. If he can get a lead, things get a lot easier for that team.
JunJia moving in here to get a ward down near those chickens. Doesn't have much more to do at the moment. He's got his own respawn raptors coming up as Xiaohu takes this time to get aggressive. JunJia walking in, just making sure that his mid laner will be okay, although he is certainly taking a lot of damage after immediately returning to lane.
Yeah, HongQ just taking some really bad trades here. Xiaohu looking so comfortable on the Azir, just punishing over and over again. Just a really clinical play as we get a look on the top side. Zika about to go Mega, so shouldn't be in too much trouble, but decently good start here for Renekton. This lane is often very difficult for the Renekton to play out, so credit to Xiaohu for looking so good on his signature champion early on in this laning phase.
JunJia lying in wait again. There's a gold card, but only going to be able to tag a minion with that Sonic Wave. So, A lot of early dueling in this mid lane, which honestly was a little unexpected, has not yielded anything other than a couple of fun times talking about Xiaohu's dominance as he cancels HongQ's recall. That's so big.
I was gonna say that's actually really important here. That's a really bad mistake for HongQ. He just wasn't in the right spot to try and find that recall, and now he's gonna be super delayed. He doesn't have that teleport available. He's gonna miss an entire wave crashing into his tower for that. So pretty big punish here, and Xiaohu just doing a great job in both of these games to get massive leads in the mid lane. Again, this Azir is consequential towards this comp overall, especially if you're going to be hitting that level 6 first to dissuade a lot of that pressure coming from TF. If you get back to lane and can chunk him out before he can use that ultimate, it kind of takes away a lot of those plays that JDG want to make at level 6.
It's really funny how you mentioned that, like, yeah, Xiaohu's got like a huge lead, and he was up 6 gold just because by virtue of what Twisted Fate does for his passive. Like, yeah, this man had a kill's worth of a CS lead, and it's just completely negated by the TF passive. But that does also mean that TF doesn't have nearly as much damage in the kit later on. So as long as Xiaohu is left pretty much unperturbed in this early game, Weibo Gaming will find themselves in a really good spot. With JDG's early strength, they're going to go start up this first dragon of the game. Jiejie is going to show up on the top side, clear out a ward, not really be able to find an angle, but we'll wait for him to hit level 6 before he starts looking around.
JunJia utilizing that Lee Sin pressure, but not having a gank yet is, definitely not ideal for Lee Sin with this comp. Once Pantheon hits level 6, this game does become a little bit more difficult for the Lee Sin. Not impossible, but certainly a lot more counterplay tools available for Weibo. So JunJia kind of being on the same timer, same pacing, even about, a quarter of a level down on Jiejie because of that dragon take is relevant. That level 6 power spike has been achieved, and we're likely going to see that Grand Starfall come in as a potential answer to the Twisted Fate, who also has their macro ability unlocked.
That's where the real fireworks start to happen. Can Jiejie do it again? He matched JunJia band for band in the first game. See if he can match HongQ here in game 2 as Gala getting rifled down with the Rangers focus auto attacks here. Didn't have to burn his barrier, so up on summoners, but losing out on a little bit of pressure.
I think that's fine. You already took the Drake, and so if there was ever a time for you to take a really aggressive trade, probably then. Zika just continuing to try and actually survive in this laning phase. Again, Xiaoxu doing a great job. You typically look at this Gnar matchup as very favored for the Gnar, or at least kind of neutral overall, for this Renekton to consistently be pushing in. It's really important as the Lee Sin continues to be on the top side here. Grubs are spawning in just over a minute. This top lane pressure continues. Lee Sin is once again going to have the inside track there, and especially with TF, in the mid lane. Despite the fact that he's down so much CS, it's still going to be a pretty easy take, so really nicely played from Xiaoxu, and so far it's a much better laning phase than game 1.
And if you're Weibo Gaming, you really want these grubs, because grubs for a Gnar, for an Azir, like, yes, please sign me up every single time. So we'll see if they want to make the move for it. Elk is level 6. The Hank is getting close to level 6. You could stay for a couple of minions and then just decide to drop whatever you're doing bottom lane and move up if that's really what you want to do.
Looks like they're not going to rotate the bot lanes just yet. I think that's kind of the meta that we've seen, is that they actually kind of want to look for some of these bot lane plays instead, and Elk and the Hank can be in danger.
Well, here comes HongQ. The timing not quite there from the Hank. Woo. The Enchanted Crystal Arrow goes down, doesn't mean anything, and it's a HongQ first blood.
Lee Sin was waiting in the wings. They didn't even need him. That's the power of TF. I don't really care if that guy's down resources. He is going to lose a lot for this, as the push obviously comes through from Xiaohu in the mid lane, but that's what I'm talking about. If you utilize that TF ult proactively, you're just going to be up in tempo. Jiejie really has to be the one to react to that. Him not being there for that play does create an advantage for the bot side. Once again, just like in game number 1, Gala and Vampire in a good spot on a good lane, so they're definitely going to be the focal point here, and we'll see now if with that kill they want to spend this back and potentially rotate a mid. Looks like it's just going to be a trade, that kill on the bot side for these grubs.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that trade is really worth it for JDG, Kman, because Gala wasn't the one who got the kill. Even if he did, it would be a marginal lead at best. Given the fact that it's on HongQ, I mean, you're getting a little bit more accelerated, right? You're getting closer to that rod, which means you're getting closer to that rapid fire cannon, which does open up some playmaking for you. But JunJia wasn't a part of that play, even though he was there. I mean, this is not a huge benefit for JDG.
It's not the biggest benefit that they could have gotten, that is for certain. I think looking for plays like that is proactive. I think it's going to be more difficult for them to take extended skirmishes with just the way that their comp is set up. Utilizing the TF ult to find picks is definitely going to be more consistent for them, and that's going to be what they need to continue to look for. But it has to be play 1 of 5 or 6, right? Like that can't be the only play that you go out there and make. I just overall think that you need to be in a spot where you continue to keep your pedal to the metal here. You will eventually get outscaled, but the Lee Sin burning no resources there does still open up some opportunities to potentially try and look for this Gnar on the top side.
I love this. Xiaoxu has already built a nice little lead for himself. He's a level up for the moment, not a full level. But now JunJia has an opportunity here with Mini Gnar here to stay for a little bit. Xiaoxu, because of his aggressiveness, got taken to half HP. Zika has an idea that something doesn't seem right here, but he will instead put himself on this island. They throw everything at him and take him down, and JJ is just a little too late. The Enchanted Crystal Arrow lands. Oh my goodness, Xiaoxu got a spear to the back, and now JJ is looking to turn this fight around and clean it up himself. JunJia will be able to ward hop away, but a great play sticking with it, a real team effort.
Word for word, exactly what I talked about needing to happen in draft. When Lee Sin goes for these plays, that is when you have to pull the trigger on the Grand Starfall. It's a great job to trade kills on the top side, and Gala very much in danger there, having to dodge out of the way of the Seraphine ultimate. I really love the proactivity of Weibo. They are not resting on their laurels. They're actually pushing JDG despite the comp difference here. JDG still getting a pretty big lead off of that play because of the gold lead now on the top side and first item being completed for JunJia. You know, the fights are still going to go their way for now, but, you know, Weibo, if they keep trading 1 for 1, are eventually going to be able to win out on some of these plays.
I mean, remember, a lot of this gold is on HongQ, where he's got a 500 gold lead. You could almost remove that from the equation at this current point in time. He's got his Rod of Ages, but this is not really where TF is strong. I think the big differentiator to look at and the big thing to keep your eye on is Xiaohu's CS, where he's at a 118 at 11 minutes, and this Azir has not been disturbed by this early game JDG composition. That being said, they're going to still leverage a lot of this early strength. They're going to go with their second dragon. Eventually, Weibo Gaming is going to have to try and stop the stack. They're going to maybe look for HongQ here. He's forced to flash away. Spear over the wall, not going to quite get it done. Elk stepping up a little bit too far. HongQ drops the Destiny. Going to look for Xiaohu. Everybody's grouping up here. Stuns there. They find the mid laner for Weibo and take him down. But the HongQ does not have his ultimate. Jeje's in a little bit of trouble. He'll be able to get back to the turret. The insect play is there, and it's a double kill for Gala. Jiejie gets tagged by a sonic wave, and JDG explode with kills.
It's gorgeous from JD Gaming. The one mistake that Weibo can't make is trying to contest over that dragon. I don't understand why we're even in the area in the first place with the power and strength that JDG have. The objective's already gone by the time they even take it. It's a very well executed fight, but the moment you burn HongQ's flash and he's out of there, there's nothing left to find. You haven't gotten any critical summoners on any of the key pieces like Gala or JunJia in this fight, and so when you overstay, when you try to escape on the Azir, it's just free pickings for a frontlining mage who just has no HP at this point. JunJia just gets to free fire. Milio coming clutch with that ultimate there as well. That's why we talked about him so much in the draft phase, being critical against this comp for Weibo. So much of what they do requires that CC chaining ability, and JunJia just kind of styling on Weibo with those Lee Sin mechanics. They needed to get that big lead, and that's exactly what they got there.
All Weibo had to do was not fight, and now they are in a very bad spot because now this Lucian is accelerated. Didn't really have too much of a lead before, but picks up 2 kills in that fight and is now going to start to impose his will. The extra range you get from the Cozy Campfire means that you are able to get a couple of wayward auto attacks onto Xiaohu and cause problems. Gold leads for everybody over on JDG, a now 3,000 gold lead. As long as they can keep the pedal to the metal, Weibo Gaming ain't going to see a late game. Here we go. Xiaoxu going all in here, but over the top is that Pantheon ultimate. Looking for a big turnaround here in the 2v1. It's going to be hard to win, trying to dodge out all the spears. He slices. He doesn't have the dice right now. He's got the flash, gets the stun, gets stunned himself, and gets speared once more.
Oh, that was a very close play. Zika narrowly trading 1 for 1 with his life on the top side. Luckily, they're able to make that play happen. Even HongQ making his, or Xiaohu, I should say, making his way up to make that play work. You know, a good play from Pantheon to pull back some gold, but they're going to lose out a lot in the side lanes because of it. They're not going to be able to win on this first turret race if they continue to push for it. Maybe they will. I mean, they do have a lot of damage on this top side, but overall, at least they're getting something. They need to pull back the gold in this game, and with a nice sidestep on that ult.
That was instant. That he knew that was happening. He's got them downloaded. He just saw it coming from not even a mile away, only a couple of feet. Here's a calling getting put down here. This is why Lucian's mid game is so strong. You clear out the wave, you drop the calling, and you can never get pressure on the other side.
This is exactly what JDG want to be doing, pushing their side lanes, creating action across the map, and utilizing what is a big macro advantage for them right now. They can win basically any isolated fight, so you might as well take as many as you want at this point in the game. Certainly, this is when Gala and Vampire are going to be at their strongest. Lucian continues to get a lot of plates as well in the mid lane. If he can start to get accelerated, that does solve a bit of your scaling problems, because he can be that assassin for someone like Xiaohu in the later part of the game. Really like the way that JDG are playing this, but they have to keep up the pressure in side lanes. They have a lot of ways to pick and find, good plays across the map. They need to make sure that they're in a position to allow Lee Sin to play as aggressive as he wants to.
The one thing to note is because you have Lucian Melio and you really want them in the mid lane, while you are getting a lot of advantages there, HongQ's ability to use his ultimate is now a little bit more limited, since he would need to recall, deploy on mid to see if you want to even consider using it top. Right now, you're pretty much locked to the bottom side of the map.
That is true, but I think you're actually more than fine with him just taking a little bit of time to continue to grow that gold lead. At least for now, Rift Herald has spawned, and he can get to that play relatively easily, certainly easier than Zika can, who would have to burn the teleport, so still a bit of an advantage for HongQ in that regard, so long as he stays close enough to be able to make that transition happen, and it looks like that's going to be the call here. Rift Herald started up by JunJia, HongQ shadowing.
Let's see if JDG can continue to pour it on with objectives here. 6,000 HP. HongQ has showed up. Zika is still down in the bottom lane. It appears that Weibo Gaming have no interest in contesting. And with Dragon coming up in 20 seconds, we'll see if JDG want to use that Herald to leverage a third Dragon HongQ teleporting bot, because that's where the next objective is.
Yeah, I mean, he essentially loses nothing for that play. Gets to roam up, get that Herald for free, and now is back bot lane. 1,500 gold ahead. I get it, TF gold lead is a bit fake, but that gold is real. He definitely has it in his inventory and in his pocket, so he will be accelerated in terms of buying a lot of those major items. We're actually seeing a much more AP-focused build than we normally do from TF in this game, which I think could be relevant. Rift Herald just gonna get dropped. Not sure if that was intentional, but Weibo have started up on this Drake. It's kind of gone already.
All right, let's see if JunJia can get in and get the steal. Flash kick, but he can't secure it. That is big for Weibo Gaming to break the Dragon stack. But now, JDG have the inside track and a Herald barreling down on this mid lane tier 2.
Yeah, they're looking to stop some of these backs here. They are trying to get this tier 2. The pings are coming down. They're not going to be able to stop enough of the backs. Only 2 people remain. Can they find a pick on the bottom side with no turret here?
Let's see. They know that Zika is near Mega, and with the ability of the HongQ to try to keep him sustained and have the Encore, means that JDG are not going to look for anything more. Good damage on this turret, but it still stands.
Very narrowly still stands, and if that went down, that would have been massive for JDG. A huge gold influx for Gala, which could have been big for the next fight. You can see his inventory is very close to that second item, and that's when you start to get a little concerned about the Lucian. Obviously still a big lead for JDG, but eventually these plays are going to have to start working out for them. JunJia utilizing that flash to try and get into that dragon fight, and having it not work out does create a situation where now there are fewer tools for JDG to be able to capitalize on some of these picks, and they do need some of these picks, because these front-to-back team fights have a lot of, opportunity for CC chaining if Melio can only use that ultimate once. This is exactly what I'm looking for.
Yep, the HongQ stepping up into an onwarded brush, but will be able to survive notwithstanding. Pantheon and Azir are really loving flashless targets, and while Xiaoxu is coming up soon, the mid-jungle duo of JDG do not have them. We'll see if they elect to try to force a fight on one of these timers, Kman, to take advantage.
Yeah, JDG are looking for this. They want to fight now. Jiejie
Right?
playing safe enough.
Trying to keep Xiaoxu off for the moment, but we're here in the LPL. We certainly will throw a couple of jabs over a Scuttle Crab, but there will not be a full-fledged fight. We'll just go over to JunJia without much of a problem, but and I guess it looks like Weibo Gaming is like, hey, we know that their flashes are down. We're not really too interested in trying to fight them over it unless they're going to try it when this Baron comes up.
I mean, that's the thing, is you really only want to fight around objectives right now if you're Weibo. Xiaohu can collect a lot of this gold for free in a side lane, but he has to be super careful. Everyone's making their way up top side.
Might not be that free. JunJia here clearing out the ward. You saw Gala and Vampire move over for the moment, but JDG will pull out as they send everybody to protect the legendary Azir out of the mid lane for Weibo Gaming. You can very clearly see where their priorities as a team lie.
They are definitely attempting to play for it.
getting
Elk is in
dove.
danger.
Oh yeah, that arrow ain't gonna help you out that much, buddy, because Lee Sin's right over the wall. Mid lane tier 2 down as well.
You send Pantheon to protect your Azir, well, I guess we'll just take your Ashe instead. I think that was the call there. Tier 2 as well going down is massive in terms of opening up the map for JDG. Again, a huge gold influx onto this Lucian, who is now 1,000 gold up on Elk on this Ashe. This is a very dangerous team comp, and these are the kinds of things that JDG need to keep doing. The pressure needs to stay on the map. If they full commit to one area, well, you just take advantage of the other. That's what Twisted Fate can do. The reason he's so valuable as a mid laner is he can afford to build a little bit more greedy. He's got that Lich Bane completed alongside the Roa, so definitely a TF that might do a little bit more damage than maybe you're expecting in some of these fights, and certainly than maybe some of these top lane TFs have been doing over the past couple of games.
And I want to shout you out, Kman, because you said the answer into Ashe Seraphine, Lucian Melio, and it's been so good. And in this particular game, you've seen it on full display. Not only having a couple of kills on the side of Gala and Vampire, but making sure that Elk and the HongQ don't have anything right now.
Oh, Zika.
Speaking of people who might not have anything, it's Zika, because you don't have Mega yet. You get kicked, and the burst damage is far too strong. It is another JDG pick.
Xiaohu has been so good in this game on the Renekton. I know that it's more Zika just overextending side lane problems, but he really has looked fantastic throughout the laning phase, and now HongQ just dodging out of the way of the arrow gets them pressure over this turret.
You're not able to make plays like that happen. It's very difficult to scratch and claw your way back in. It is a 5,000 gold deficit for Weibo Gaming. They've been here before. They were here in game 1. The circumstances do feel at least a little bit different this time. But as we know, and as Xiaohu has shown, if you can hold out and get to the late game, he can provide. We'll see if Weibo Gaming managed to get there.
See if they can. And Xiaohu's had some big moments, has already shown some good plays on the Azir in this game, just has not had a lot of opportunity to actually make those plays happen. Has completed the Rocket Belt second item on Azir. There's a lot of conversation around whether or not that's optimal or if people really like it, but certainly seems to be the direction that a lot of people are going in. Thank you again, Chovy, for getting everybody on that train. But now the question is, can he make those plays happen? Because Dragon is spawning, and there are more tools for Weibo than you would think. These are just the scariest parts of the game. If Weibo lose a big fight here, the game is likely over.
They are positioning as though they want to take this. Teleports are getting burnt. Xiaoxu has already landed. Meanwhile, we have a Meganar that's already coming through. That's about to run out of time. I'm not sure if this is the fight that you want. HongQ going to use that Destiny. Looking for an angle. Culling going to force Gala away. He's at half HP. Big damage onto Xiaohu, down to about half HP himself, as the Dragon is being done here by JDG, keeping Weibo at arm's length. And it will be secured by JDG. No fights occurring.
I mean, just a very mistimed Narbar. There's not really a ton else to talk about there. You have one real easy way to find engages, and it's Meganar, and Zika joins the fight with basically no bar left, and that's a massive mistake. That basically means they cannot contest at all. There's a 6k gold lead for JDG. It's everywhere across the map. You are just constantly losing. Soul Point has been acquired. It's Cloud Soul. This is going to be one of the most dangerous to play into. It's Lucian Lee Sin Twisted Fate with Cloud Soul. I mean, this is terrifying. This is a prospect I would not want to be staring down. We talk about the scaling, but you know, the reason I liked this comp so much for JDG in draft and hyped it up as the better draft is because they have so many more tools to control the game, and they've done exactly that so far across the first 23 minutes.
Yeah, it felt like Weibo was like, all right, we need JDG to be a little bit passive because we're not going to be able to exert that much pressure. Well, JDG is anything but a passive team. They will fight you all the time. They will get those early advantages and carry it into a victory. And right now they are well on track to do so. Hovering around this top side here, Baron could always be on the menu at any point in time now.
That's the thing, is like this comp does take Baron. Like, it's not like you can't just sit there and be not scared of it. Lich Bane you know, on TF does give you more options there. Rapid Fire now completed as well to make him, you know, effective in those team fights. We talk about that extra range on Gold card. It's going to matter. Rapid Fire also available for Gala, so he's not even an easy target for the Pantheon to jump onto. And even if the Pantheon does get that lockdown onto Gala, you've got the Milio ultimate to be able to cleanse it. So there are so many different options here for JDG. As long as they don't make egregious errors, they could be in a spot where they're finding even more picks.
We need to see the HongQ come away with a big encore. We've seen a couple come through and not really do a whole lot. It is hard against this Milio with the Breath of Life, with the Mikhails, but you need to be able to find a way. You need to find a way to bait out this CC, the CC cleanse coming through out of the Milio somehow, some way, whether it be a Gnar ultimate, whether it be Pantheon stuns or an Asher.
I mean, the problem is, it's not even just one CC at this point. You've got Mikhails, so you've got so many different ways to keep everybody on your team as safe as possible. He understands his one role, keep his carries alive.
Okay, here's a root. There's the culling. Xiaohu will be able to slide out without too many problems here, but JDG continuing to exert their pressure, bullying Weibo Gaming with that 6,000 gold lead, slowly encroaching in on their jungle. And Chain of Crystal Arrow is going to not land on Xiaoxu. He will slice away, no dice.
I don't know if a single one of those Ash Arrows has landed this game, unfortunately. It has been a tough one for Elk. We talked about, you know, the dangers of early picking Ashe Seraphine, something that was so safe at the beginning of the year, but people have just realized how good Lucian Milio are, especially after some of the buffs to Lucian in some previous patches. It's just in such a good spot to be able to not only take advantage of it early in lane, but in the mid game as well, really neutralize a lot of the plays that Ashe can make. And you really just run into a situation where she's just an ult at this point, and she can't even really find it. Elk, a hero for Weibo Gaming throughout a majority of Split 1, has not been able to find that same level of success. You know, we talk about Xiaohu potentially being a carry on the Azir. Ashe can do a lot of damage in the late game. You just have to finally find these setups. You have so much CC available. I understand Milio can cleanse basically everything, but, you know, if you hit everything, then maybe you can get enough damage down to burst one of these teammates and, you know, capitalize on a bad fight from JDG.
They pointed that out about Elk. You know, that first split was so good for him, and you could see even on the other side, you know, the guy we talked about, HongQ, earlier on, kind of an opposite situation here where he's really come on strong here in the second split, but that first split wasn't so hot. You know, if these guys, you know, if Elk can go and put things together for a playoff run, we could see a JDG-esque split coming out of Weibo here in Split 2 playoffs. It's just a matter of actually getting there, and if you're able to get the job done in this series, it'll certainly be a nice feather in the cap for Weibo Gaming. If you manage to get the job done in this game, I mean, you are feeling great about yourselves. Like, yeah, man, we can go 6,000 gold and not care, and we can go and win games anyway.
Yeah, and, you know, for Weibo, you want to try and come back here. JDG have been so oppressive in this one, but might have overstepped on the mid wave here.
Arrow, you got the cleanse out of Gala. We managed to get the Milio, but Jiejie goes way too deep and goes down. Xiaoxu with a good flash, but he gets knocked away. HongQ onto the backside, and Gala's free firing on Weibo, and they are wiped away by the might of JDG. The gold card goes all the way downtown. Zika can only run for the hills. And JDG, what do they want to do now? They want to go after objectives? Do they want to push?
It looks like they want to chase Zika right now, secure that kill onto the Gnar, get themselves an ace. And Dragon's going to be next up on the menu. Baron on the map as well if they want to make the transition over there. But with the bottom side, it's likely going to be this objective and then a back. What a massive fight. Xiaoxu for All-Pro. If you ever needed a good selling point, that fight was a great selling point. He gets in the middle of 3 members of the enemy team for that Q. He's massive on this Renekton. He's in a counter pick matchup this entire game, and he's never been down in gold. It's just an incredible effort from everybody on JDG, especially this top laner as we see in this fight. Once again, it's Weibo looking for a desperation play as this dragon ends up spawning, but we just get a little bit too over-eager once that Grand Starfall comes in. Jiejie gets kicked, and it is over. You can only knock the Renekton out for so long. You got a TF on your back lane. You got a Lee Sin jumping around everywhere. You have Lucian free-firing. Vampire is cleansing every bit of CC. Everyone on JD Gaming are stepping up right now, and if we had any questions about this team after game number 1, a lot of them are getting answered here in game 2, as it looks like they'll secure the Baron as well.
Never in a good spot when an enemy Lucian is on your backline ripping your team apart, generally speaking. That means the game has gone horribly, horribly wrong. And it has for Weibo and will continue to do so until JDG elect to put this one away. A lot of jockeying around this Baron. They did get the Cloud Soul, which, as you mentioned, going to be a big boon for them and a good way for them to try to end this game. And maybe, just maybe, they'll find the angle here in the mid lane. Look at the Xiaoxu flank. He's on the back line causing a ruckus. And Xiaohu cannot survive the onslaught. He goes down. HongQ will find the HongQ. Zika doing what he can on the backside, but finally knocked down. That is an ace for JDG. They will shove it down mid lane, and they will call it a game.
Game, set, match for game number 2. JDG get a comp that they can control everything on the map with, and they do not look back. Lee Sin looks incredible. The early game dominance looks incredible, and it looks like JDG have found their comfort once again.
This guy's Renekton is just so insane, man. Xiaoxu, listen, when people have one tricks, typically you pull them out every once in a while, but what happens when your one trick is meta enough that it's picked all the time, but not meta enough to constantly get banned? Eventually, you have to spend a ban on it against this guy.
It's actually insane. I mean, this is a counter pick. This is like the classic Renekton counter pick, right? Playing Gnar into Renekton, it's like, okay, I have the range advantage, you know, lane's gonna go well for me. Xiaoxu's just built different. That guy is not the same Renekton as everybody else. I'm so glad we popped up the All-Pro graphic because truly, his development over the course of this year has contributed so heavily towards why JDG are in the spot that they're in. He wasn't the only player to play well in this game, but him getting that lead on the top side was so relevant and being able to open up the map even more. Lucian Milio is expected to win. The Twisted Fate is expected to get out on the map even with the bad laning phase. Renekton winning on the top side just completely strangleholds any lane pressure from Weibo Gaming at all.
Yeah, and when that happens, that means you kind of get to run wild as the Lee Sin, and didn't have to do a whole lot in that early game, but with all the leads that you have, it just makes life so much harder. You don't get to move first as the Weibo Gaming top laner. You don't get to show up to fights first. You have to wait and go and collect your wave, and then it messes with your Narbar, or you just drop the wave, which doesn't really seem that great. So you're kind of in a catch-22 there. It is a wonderful performance by Xiaoxu and a wonderful performance by JDG as a whole. They really cleaned up a lot of the issues they had in game 1 and made this one look fairly easy.
They looked so clean. I mean, I said it towards the end of that cast, but the reality of the situation for me is like, JDG is a team that plays so well when they get to create the plays, when they get to choose where fights happen, when they get to control the map and play through tempo. JunJia in particular, it has been a monster when he gets to control the map. Now, he is a Feast or Famine player, hot and cold. We've talked about it and discussed it a ton on the broadcast over the course of this split. But the difference between JunJia's good games and bad games is that in the good games, he gets massive leads and he has the confidence to be able to take really whatever fight he's looking for. Because when he gets to play aggressive, I mean, JDG never look back when they get to make any play they want. They're so dangerous when they get to control the map. It's just really, really fun to watch. And this is what I want to see out of them. I want to see them drafting Lee Sin and just trying to style on a team like Weibo that they should be better than.
This is what we expected to see out of them in game 1. That we did not get. They had those leads, but they did not convert well enough. And, you know, this is the JDG that we've been accustomed to. And now, Kman, guess what? It's game 3 Merchants going to game 3. Not necessarily their comfort zone, but nonetheless going to game 3. Taking a look at the damage charts here. Gala leads the way with 20.2k. Elk did 8.7k damage. That is unusually low for a near 30-minute game. Was not able to do a damn thing in these fights. 0 kill participation for Xiaohu and the HongQ. Very unfortunate.
I mean, it's tough, right? Like it's tough when you know the game is so far out of control, basically because of your loss in the early game. One of the big things I want to point out from that graphic, how balanced the damage profile is from JDG. It was everyone, right? Like everyone was doing damage in these fights. JunJia was obviously finding some really flashy engages onto, you know, Jiejie at times and onto Elk with the flash ult and others. And obviously this Ashe had a really tough time playing the game, but there was no weak link of JDG. Even HongQ, after his, you know, bad laning phase, was able to really stabilize and become one one of the biggest key contributors in the late game for that team. We already talked about Xiaoxu, but Gala and Vampire were excellent. It was the whole map. Like JDG just looked like they were winning everywhere. That's the expectation for a team like this, is with their talent level, if you get leads on these these players on these carries, you're gonna be able to just snowball the game out of control. You as a 5-man unit can really take down basically anybody, and it's just really impressive stuff. I mean, we even saw it there, right? Like, Gala gets hit by the Ash Arrow, and it's a McHale's, and then later on in the fight, you get the Vampire ultimate out of him, and, like, it's everybody playing selfless, team-based League of Legends, and that's how you're gonna win against a team like Weibo.
Yep, it's something they've done very, very well this split, and a big reason why they are in second place right now and looking to maintain that second place spot. I mean, this team fight's a thing of beauty. Not only the lead kick, but the beautiful flank. Only use the slice, so you have the dice to get back over the Azir wall. I mean, that's just really good Renekton play. And, you know, in fairness to Weibo, in desperation mode there, you don't really get to set up for plays whenever you are down that far. So no real surprise there. Kman, with everybody performing so well, who's your MVP? I mean, JunJia had so much kill participation in this game. I think he participated on every kill except for one. It's got to be him, right?
Yeah, at least in bias here, because he's the most fun champion to watch in professional play when it's done well. But yeah, I gotta give the nod to JunJia here. He was just phenomenal. I mean, some of the flashy plays he made as well were just great. I think this is a very earned player of the game here. 94% KP percentage. I think that's good enough for me.
No doubt about it, Kman. And the junglers in this series have been the difference between wins and losses. Game 1, it was Jiejie. Game 2 was JunJia. Will we see one of these junglers step up in Game 3, Kman? Or will it be somebody else on these teams to take them home to the promised land of getting a dub here in the last week of the LPL regular season? We're going to take a break, and when we return, we're going to find out. It'll be the final draft of the day between Weibo Gaming and JDG.